Oh, not yet. Okay. Oh, now. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your patience. I'm Stefani Michelle, extremely nervous. This is the first time I'm doing anything like this. I've taught for a while, I've talked to people, but this technology thing is a little nerve wracking for me. But this is the book that I wrote. Thank you, Llewellyn, so much for um, for having me as an author, for believing in me, for all of this. Thank you guys for joining. I'm Stefani Michelle. I have been in this metaphysical world my entire life. I had Tuesday night meditations at my house growing up every week, every year, my entire life. And my mother taught everything from Kundalini to the Akashic Records to chakras to guided meditations. And I've always been really open in that way. So this has been, you'll see if you do read the book, this is a dedication to my mother. It's been a lifetime going on. What is shadow work? So I want to talk, I know my talk is about manifesting from your own energy, but it's really important to do shadow work before we actually can do that. So shadow work is, not me, refreshing. Okay. Shadow work is internal work. It's going deep inside of yourself. A lot of times when we have obstacles, barriers, blocks, it's because we're projecting our energy outward, and we're projecting it outward from, I don't want to say broken places, but unhealed places, places where we've put background scripts, right? Background noise that isn't necessarily our authentic self. So shadow work, in addition to just loving all pieces of who you are, is also really getting down deep into the authentic version of who you are, stripping away experiences, stripping away other people's voices. So and shadow work is also in real time. It's not just doing it in therapy or doing it, looking at the book and reading it and taking notes and being like, okay, I did my shadow work for the day. It's actually doing it 24 hours a day. And I have a really small example of what I mean by that. It's a story that I love because even though it's a moment in time for me, it changed so much. It was a very small moment, and it's going to seem really insignificant, but that moment changed. It was a ripple effect. And this is where I'm going to get to about manifesting your reality. So I was at the beach one day, and this was just about 18 months ago. And I was with somebody, and he was doing something that I viewed inappropriate, we'll say. And I said to him, can you please stop doing that, in my old script, in my old way of trying to control the external environment? And he looked at me and he said, don't tell me what to do. And so in that moment, because I was already doing shadow work and I was really deep embedded into it, I stopped and I paused and I asked myself, okay, what is really happening here? Why did I say that? And I realized it was because I was scared and I didn't feel safe in this man's presence. And so I looked at him and I said, you're right. I'm not going to tell you what to do. What I am going to tell you is I don't feel safe right now and I'm going to leave. And because it was just a small moment, in that moment, I didn't really kind of reflect. But after that, the things that happened and what I recognized about myself, one, I took my power back. Two, I made it about me, not about the other person. And the ripple effect that happened was that I created my own safety. I started to trust myself and my own energy, which was one of my, shadow work things, was relationships and codependency, and always trying to be on the outside and control the exterior environment. That was my issue. And so I did a lot of work on trying to control the internal environment and speaking my truth. So in that moment, again, it was like this ripple effect that I could see the energy completely change because I took my power back. I gained self-trust. I was taking care of myself, that my reality started to almost like spiral and do this. And everything started to shift and change. The people that I surrounded myself with became different people. They became people that I was now attracting from an internal space of empowerment and joy as opposed to fear. So that's the kind of baseline of how to manifest your reality based on your own energy and, doing the shadow work, because you have to get rid of those layers of other people's voices, those layers of 48 years of experience of going through life and trying to do what this person says and that part of society says, and, what we're going through, and really just, I don't want to say ignoring it, but in a way, ignoring it and just listening and trusting yourself. That's a huge thing. And that's why shadow work is so important. Now, where shadow work and the chakras come into play is because as I was going through all of this, well, first, let me start by saying I recognized the connection when, again, I always try to control the external. And so even in my relationships as a Reiki master, when I would go to sleep at night, I would put my hands on the other person and, pray for their healing and give them light, and just, whoever it was that I was loving in that moment, all of my healing attention went to that person. And it got to a place where I wasn't changing myself. Like, it hurt too much. That's what I want to say. It hurt too much to keep doing that. So I started to every night put my hands on my own heart. And it was the first time in 45 years that I was like, I'm going to just Reiki myself. I don't know why I wasn't smart enough to think of that sooner. But for me, it was a big moment. And putting my hands on my own heart every single night and just saying, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. And again, it seems corny and cheesy, but it had a profound impact on my energy. It changed everything. And I would wake up in the morning making new choices and being externally aware of my internal projections, which I could never do before. I could only see the external. I could only see my circumstances, my experiences. I couldn't see the Stefani inside that was experiencing those experiences. But once I started doing that, I could feel myself again. And it was like I felt all of my chakras starting to move and starting to get clear. And then I was like, okay, you know what a big issue of mine is fear. I have a big fear. I have lots of fear. I have lots of relationship issues. Let me just see if this happens when I put my hands on my sacral chakra. And lo and behold, it did. And what started to happen is every night I would put my hands on my sacral chakra, and every morning I would wake up and I would be presented with opportunities to heal my sacral chakra. I remember very specifically, I was on the road last year and I was doing this, and the next day I was with my husband and we started fighting. And it was random fights, and we don't fight. We're not that kind of couple. And at the end of the night, it dawned on me that everything we were fighting about, just like little things, where's Walmart? Because we were in a state we had never been in before, or where's this, or look at the map, or, just little things. And at the end of it, when we kind of came out of the energy, I looked at him and I went, oh my God, babe, everything we fought about is every kind of like deep-seated issue I've been holding on to my whole life. And so they showed up, they presented themselves, they gave me opportunities to create new vibration, to create new frequency. And so this is where I talk about, or I get into the fact that in order to manifest your reality, you truly have to change your frequency. And this is what Abraham Hicks talks about, but she doesn't talk about the shadow work part. She doesn't talk about the hard, you can't get there from here. But what does that mean? That means you have to rewire yourself. You have to put out a different frequency. I call it, when I'm working with my clients, I call it the bat signal. Your radar, your sonar, whatever it is, can't attract the right vibration, the right frequency, if you're still putting out a frequency of fear. you're just going to get back all of that stuff that is vibrating to fear, that wants to prey on fear, you know? So you have to break those frequencies. You have to break that script. And it's funny because, you know, I work with so many people and they're like, oh my God, it's happening. It's changing so quick. But it's really not, because we've all been thinking about this and trying to do this for years, however long our life has been, right? However long we've been in this. But the second you really start to break that frequency and change it, and you're working from the inside out, it feels like everything shows up instantly. It's so incredible. It's such an amazing experience. So I do want to I do want to answer questions. I haven't been able to like read anything. So I see right now there's Granddaughter Crow. I love questions. So I want to answer your questions. So I'm going to start reading this. Most of us were taught not to love self and self-care. So it makes perfect sense to me. Oh my God. Honestly, Granddaughter Crow, it seems so simple, but it was life-changing. I'm doing shadow work, but I have so much trauma from my childhood. How do I get over that? I feel stuck. Okay, so I have a self-published book. It's called The Beast, and forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong, Llewellyn, but it is all childhood trauma. So it's about assault. It's about growing up with nightmares and having the gift and not being able to understand those two things. What came first, the assaults, the nightmares, the gift, you know, where did it all come from? So that book called The Beast is all this trauma, childhood trauma. It's kind of dark, and I tell people when I'm doing presentations not to read the book. And in my last presentation, somebody said, read the book, because it's a great understanding of how deep in the stuckness you can be and how much your life can change. So it's one step at a time. It's really, and that step for me, one step at a time, was just telling myself I love myself, was just feeding myself energy in that capacity, right? But the other thing that really helped for me, and I feel like I've touched on, but I'll say it in a different way, is every time we're in an experience that we want to project or think of, you know, it in externally, we bring that energy back into ourselves internally and say, how am I feeling about this? What am I doing about this? How do I get myself out of it? So instead of looking externally, you're always looking internally, and that's how you get yourself out of the loop. So you're stuck because you're energetically stuck in a loop of repeating the same thing. I'm going to say something because of what you brought up. I'm going to try to be sensitive and censor it. But I had an experience based on the assault. I've had many experiences based on the assault from childhood. That basically was a repeat of that assault for 40 years. Because that was the vibration, that was the frequency that was given to me as a young kid. And I couldn't break the loop because all I kept seeing was that demon, the beast, right? I just kept seeing it. I kept manifesting that reality from a place of fear. And it wasn't until I had a deep conversation with myself and I said, that's not happening anymore. That's not real. I love myself. I'm in control. I'm in charge. And a lot of this, Llewellyn, in the book is really going to go into that because you're coming from a place very similar to where I'm coming from. Honestly, I can spend all day on this. This is what I do for a living, is help people get unstuck. I'm going to try and get to more questions. This next one, this can drive neurodivergents crazy and it makes it difficult to listen to the words. My speech, I'm not sure what you mean, Michelle, but I am neurodivergent. So I don't know how to answer that. And I know that I am very animated, and it's not a question, it's just a comment. But anyway, if you have a question, I will answer it. I'm not even sure if you're talking about, it doesn't matter. Okay. Is it important to work from the sacral chakra up to create and build on stability? I love that, Grace. And so if you want to do that, the book is structured from the root up. So you would go from the base all the way up. However, you don't have to work in that order. One of the things that I tell my clients is, well, we do an exercise. And I'll give this to you. I have them write their perfect future. Write it down in a journal, in a greeting card to yourself. If there were no obstacles in your way, what would your life look like? And then I have them start from themes in that. What does that look like? What are the emotions there? And there's a lot that each chakra holds. So for me, it was self-love, which is why I started at the heart. There was so much that took away my ability to love myself that I had to start there. But you feel your body, you feel your energy, and where you need the most attention and the most healing, I would say, is where you start. But if you don't know where that is, start at the root and work your way up. You're going to eventually start at the root anyway. This is not, there's no finish line. We're constantly healing. We're constantly evolving. We're bringing our frequency. I call it leveling up constantly. And the more we do. So once you've kind of fixed those deep, dark wounds, then you can go back and start from the root and build that foundation. But you're going to start to notice, actually, once you're empowering yourself, you're creating a new foundation no matter what. Shadow is the place inside us that we react from various trauma. Unconscious bus driver. Absolutely. Sometimes I talk about it as like that YouTube page, or, where's the music coming from? And so that's why we have to do those layers until we get to that page and we close that hidden voice that's not ours. And it's also about finding the voice that is ours and loving it no matter what it's saying, right? The static. Oh, okay. Thank you, Michelle. I'm just trying to go through the comments. Okay. Got it. Sorry, you guys. I don't have headphones. I'm going to get better at the techie stuff. Okay. Our power and talents can be hidden in the shadow also. I'm going to, Sabrina. I love that so much. So like I said, the self-published book, The Beast, one of my childhood traumas was my psychic abilities. And you'll read that book and think that I absolutely hate this world that I'm engaging in right now. It was a very dark cause of stress and trauma for me, because even though my mother was trying to help me and really trying to get me to understand myself, it isolated me from people. So it was trauma for me. And it wasn't until I was about 43, I'm not really sure, that I decided I can't ignore who I am anymore. I can't pretend I don't hear the voices, pretend that I don't see the energy, pretend that I'm different. I am different. And it wasn't until I really embraced that my healing started to just unfold. And so you're right. The talents and the strength, your superpowers are absolutely, depending on what your trauma is, can absolutely be hidden in the shadows, because, some of us have a lot of shame about who we are. And so you have to unravel all of that. I want to see I don't know if I can go back up to it. Dang it. I wanted to see, there was a long comment, but I don't know how to go back up to it. So I'm just going to, but do we want to be Muggle? No, Venus. I did for a really long time. I just my mother would say to me all the time as a kid, you're not like the other kids. And to me, I just wanted to throw a temper tantrum because I wanted to be like the other kids. So in the 90s, the 80s, the 90s, I wanted to be like the other kids. Now, and to tell you the truth, when everyone started coming out of the broom closet, I had a lot of anger with my fear, and I was really pissed off. I was like, why are you all coming out? And it took a long time. Now I love that I'm not, ordinary, and I'm not like the other kids, but that was not something that came easily, to not want to be like the other kids, but I love it now. And that's done with shadow work. Okay. There's a lot of research and evidence showing a connection between mental and physical trauma storage. As we heal one, we notice changes in the other. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I talk about a lot of the science in this book also. I talk about the reticular activating system. I think I mentioned the mirror neurons are one of my favorites. I think I talk about, the body keeps the score. But yes, there's lots of science that connect these things together. And to be honest with you, I love the science and the spirituality together. To me, it's just a beautiful thing. How can we use our energy to manifest? Okay, so did I not actually do that? So once we have the shadow work underway, right? It's again, we're going to do it constantly. But once we have it underway, again, going back to writing your perfect future for yourself, you recognize that your bat signal, your radar, starts to put out a pure frequency. It starts to put out your genuine desire for your reality. So a lot of times we're desiring a reality that comes from getting out of a stuck place. We want, please help me move from this part of suffering into a place of joy. But that's not really manifesting your reality. That's where you do the shadow work. And so once that's underway and you're like, oh, what I really want is X, Y, and Z, your true self comes out, then your energy can put that ripple effect into the cosmic web. And you're grabbing on to the streams of energy, the streams of the web that really vibrate and match your frequency. So this is going to be kind of weird, and maybe some of you share in this, but I can actually see the cosmic web. I can see the energy. So when I'm doing readings for people, I just tap into their cosmic web and I can see what they're attaching to. And basically I'm saying, if you stay on this flow, these are the outcomes. However, you have all of these other options, but in order to get to the next flow, a higher vibration, this is the work you have to do. And then this will be your manifested reality. This will be your the web stream that you can float on, or fly on, whatever you want to do. But it creating that reality, manifesting that reality, is really about getting on the right stream of consciousness, the right frequency, the right radio wave, and then it just flows. It just happens. You don't actually have to put that much thought into it once you're in that stream, in that flow. In the book, there are actual practical applications for this. So I talk about, there's rituals, there's meditations. So I talk about writing letters to yourself. That one to me is so powerful. I love that one because I've done it so many times. You get a greeting card, you write it out, you then hide it from yourself. I usually put it in whatever book I'm reading at that moment because I never finish books. I read them, I go, okay, I understand. And then I put them away. 6 months later, I go, I want to read that book some more. And then there's that greeting card that I wrote to myself. And because I had made a conscious effort to fix that vibration, to get on that frequency, by the time I find that greeting card, I've made it to that reality. I have now manifested whatever it is that I wanted in my life. There's one, I'll talk about my husband. When years ago I had done a painting, and this is also in the book, where I took Elmer's glue and I wrote all the things, all the good qualities I wanted in a relationship. And then I painted hearts all over it, just hearts, hearts, and hearts. So the glue, the words were like faint in the background, but it kept my focus on healing those parts of myself so that I could then get into that reality. It is everything that I wanted in a relationship, that friendship, that communication, the adventure, the fun. It is everything. If I showed you this painting and then showed you my relationship, you'd be like, holy, what the? It's everything. So it is about frequency. It is about vibration. Yes, there is no normal. Everyone is different, which is, I don't know where that comment is coming from, but I agree wholeheartedly. There's no one size fits all. And I talk about that a lot with my clients, and I focus on where their frequency is at and what we have to do to create that getting into the cosmic web that is going to create the authentic version of their reality, the one from a whole spiritual place inside. I do not want to be like everybody else. Have you seen? Oh, I don't know if you guys are talking to me. How do you know if you need to do shadow work? Mona, great question. I would say and I can feel it. So I would say in our current reality, Mona, everyone has to do shadow work. And the way that it kind of just popped in from spirit is thinking about Mother Earth. There are parts of her that are dying. What a pure spirit, right? We came to this place because she was so powerful and had so much beauty and joy and energy, and she's dying. So if she's dying, there are places inside of us that of course are dying. I don't know why that needed to be said. Maybe one of you know, but that needed to be said. I would say everyone has to do shadow work. I would say that's part of why we're here right now. There's so much gunk, dirt in the air. I'm having a hard time describing it because I can see it, but it's like, think about the ocean being polluted. The air is polluted. Our bodies are polluted. Our vibration is polluted. Our frequency is polluted. So we're trying to clean up our energy. And without actually feeling that and doing it, I would say you're just recycling some old stuff. I would just say, do the research and what shadow work is and whether you need it or not. But I personally feel that everyone could benefit from doing it because you're freeing yourself from other scripts. If you just close your eyes and listen to your mind, you're going to hear at least 15 different voices. You want to hear your voice. You want to hear what's really happening with you. It's that old thing, like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Well, normally the very, very first thing that comes to your mind is your voice, but then all of a sudden we're bombarded, boom, 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 boom. Unless you're in the channeling space, the very first thing you're going to hear is the light, and then you'll hear your voice, and then you'll hear all the but, what ifs, and da-da-da-da-da. So if you're not channeling, you'll hear your own voice, but then what we tend to do is kind of excuse it and say, that's not real. Let's listen to my dad. Let's listen to my mom. Let's listen to my sisters, whoever. Let's listen to Channel 7 News, whatever it is, you're going to start hearing all those other voices. That to me is pollution. That's where you do the shadow work because you want to find your voice, your truth. Okay. Let's see what else is happening here. We still have some time. Shadow work does not make us love and light. Right. No. And I'm a good. Do you know how many times I wanted to curse? Please consider sending love to Mother Earth every day. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm reading your book and it's packed full of wonderful ways towards self-love and self-liberation. Thank you so much, Granddaughter Crow. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I hoped. Anyway, it's been a beautiful journey. I think I understand. Thank you for explaining. It has only been recently I've heard about shadow work in this context. In my past, shadow work had always meant working with, I didn't even think of that. Working with mean spirits is what she wrote. Yeah, I guess I can see where that kind of cross would come in, but right, that's not at all what I'm talking about. Which book should we buy that is about this talk? Oh, Rebecca, this is my book, Chakras and Shadow Work. There's so many other books though that are great. I mean, of course, I'm going to recommend my book, but there's a lot. There's so much. There's so much good information out there. This is a living and breathing book. This is not, read it cover to cover and then put it away. This is, when the books arrived from Llewellyn, I just kind of went like this and opened it. And the very first thing I read from my own book, was what I needed to hear that day. So it's a living, breathing, keep it in your pocket kind of book. And it makes me so happy. Okay. Hi. Yes, Stephanie, this was fabulous. Thank you. Did I miss the part that said we're out of time? Now you're a tech witch too. It's so hard. Okay, I do have time for one last question if somebody wants to ask one. If not, I love you all. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you enjoy the book. I hope that you get a lot out of shadow work, because it really is the bridge to manifest your reality. If you ever want to do one-on-one with me, I have a website. You can book a session with me. I will help you get from one place to the other. And it can happen. It will feel like it's happening overnight. You're welcome. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you guys. Okay. I guess that's it. I don't see questions. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you all.